Dear friends, welcome to another episode of Military Operations. In this video, we will discuss North Korea's refusal to use its nuclear arsenal as a bargaining tool and why the North Koreans frequently reference the case of Ukraine. Since its first nuclear tests, North Korea has firmly established its identity as a full-fledged nuclear power. However, this stance is not just about military deterrence, it is a central component of the regime's survival. In multiple official statements, the North Korean regime has emphasized that its nuclear weapons are not a bargaining chip, with Pyongyang refusing to view its warheads as a tool for negotiating with Western powers. On the contrary, its nuclear arsenal is considered the ultimate guarantee against any external attempt to overthrow the communist dictatorship. North Korea's nuclear program dates back to the Cold War, when the country began pursuing nuclear technology with support from the Soviet Union. Initially, the focus was on research for peaceful purposes, but over time, Pyongyang shifted its investments toward the possibility of developing nuclear weapons. In the 1990s, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, North Korea found itself dangerously isolated and without its primary security guarantor. This situation motivated the dictatorship to accelerate its nuclear program, taking advantage of the lack of international oversight and the economic difficulties that further isolated it from the rest of the world. As a result, in 2006, Pyongyang successfully conducted its first nuclear test, proving to the world that it had achieved a new level of military capability. Since then, North Korea has continuously improved its capabilities, developing increasingly powerful and sophisticated weapons. In addition to investing in intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs, which can now reach U.S. territory, North Korea has not only developed nuclear weapons, but also highly lethal and efficient delivery systems to strike its enemies. With this evolution, North Korea has made it clear that it will not give up its arsenal and considers its nuclear program an essential element of national security. This reinforces the official narrative that its nuclear weapons serve as a shield against foreign intervention, a response to the deep and constant fear of a regime change imposed by external forces, particularly the United States. The North Korean dictatorship closely follows historical examples, such as the fall of Saddam Hussein in Iraq and the overthrow of Muammar Gaddafi in Libya. Both leaders abandoned their weapons of mass destruction programs and ultimately lost power. This history strengthens North Korea's belief that the only way to ensure the survival of the regime is by maintaining a strong nuclear deterrent. And it is precisely in this context that one of the most frequently cited examples by North Korea is the case of Ukraine. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, Kyiv possessed the third largest nuclear arsenal in the world. However, in 1994, under the Budapest Memorandum, Ukraine gave up its nuclear weapons in exchange for financial aid, and most importantly, security guarantees from Russia, the United States, and the United Kingdom. But as we know all too well, these guarantees proved useless when Russia annexed Crimea in 2014 and later launched a full-scale invasion in 2022. For Pyongyang, what happened in Ukraine serves as a clear lesson. Trusting international promises can be a fatal mistake, and only a nation's own nuclear arsenal can truly guarantee its sovereignty against external threats. Over the years, various attempts at negotiation have been made to halt the progress of North Korea's nuclear program. The Trump administration, for example, attempted a direct approach, betting on historic diplomatic meetings with Kim Jong-un. Trump viewed North Korea's nuclear arsenal as a bargaining chip, which is why his strategy involved offering economic and diplomatic incentives to Pyongyang in exchange for denuclearization. For Trump, the entire issue seemed straightforward and could be resolved at the negotiating table by presenting a package of commercial and economic proposals, which could even include the lifting of certain sanctions. However, despite symbolic meetings and what appeared to be a thaw in relations, the negotiations ultimately failed. Pyongyang made it clear that it was never truly willing to give up its arsenal and that any promises of dismantlement were, in reality, a strategic maneuver to buy time and avoid harsher sanctions. This experience reinforced North Korea's stance that negotiating denuclearization with the United States would not provide genuine security guarantees. North Korea's rigid position raises concerns on multiple fronts. Countries such as the United States, Japan, and South Korea view North Korea's expanding nuclear arsenal as a direct threat to regional stability. At the same time, China and Russia take a more measured approach, seeking to prevent escalation while maintaining some level of influence over Pyongyang. The question that remains is, what comes next? Will North Korea continue expanding its nuclear program? Or is there still room for some form of diplomatic accommodation in the future? The Ukrainian example also serves as a warning for other nations considering denuclearization. What happened to Ukraine could influence countries like Iran and other states seeking to develop nuclear capabilities as a safeguard against external threats. Thus, the Ukrainian case reinforces the view that the world is becoming increasingly unstable, and that possessing nuclear weapons may be seen as the only way to guarantee a nation's territorial integrity and sovereignty in the long run. Looking ahead, North Korea is expected to continue strengthening itself as a nuclear power, showing no signs of relinquishing that status. Pyongyang's strategy is not just a defensive tool, but an essential component of the regime's legitimacy. For this reason, any attempt at denuclearization will always face insurmountable barriers, with the Ukrainian case serving as a strong argument for the North Korean regime to continue along this path. North Korea closely observes the fate of countries that have given up their arsenals and sees in it a serious warning. This sends a clear message to Pyongyang and other nations. Trusting external guarantees and treaties on paper is simply too risky. North Korea's nuclear stance is deeply rooted in historical precedents and a relentless pursuit of regime survival. As the world watches, the question remains, will diplomacy ever succeed, or is North Korea's nuclear path irreversible? The case of Ukraine serves as a stark warning, reinforcing Pyongyang's belief that only a strong nuclear arsenal can guarantee sovereignty. But what do you think? Do you believe North Korea will ever agree to denuclearization under the right circumstances? Or is its nuclear program non-negotiable? How do you see the Ukrainian example influencing other nations with nuclear ambitions? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this analysis, make sure to subscribe for more in-depth military and geopolitical insights. See you in the next video.